Hello, today I'm going to be talking about the top 5 ways that our students are finding most helpful to recover from chronic pain, and that would be naturally. If we haven't met yet, my name is Pam Bartha. I am the author of Become a Wellness Champion and the founder of Live Disease Free. And I'm really happy to spend this time with you today. We're going to be talking about the best ways to recover from chronic pain. And there are different types of chronic pain. Number one, if you get in a car accident or you have some type of an accident, riding your bike, falling off, you have inflammation, right? So that would be an injury, or maybe you have an accident, right? You break a limb or you fall and hurt yourself and have stitches, etc. So there is pain associated and inflammation associated with injury from accidents and maybe sports injuries. But then there's also pain associated with the inflammation that's present in chronic disease. And today I'm going to be talking about how do we deal with and recover from the pain associated with things like migraine headaches or other headaches. Maybe we have some joint pain. Maybe we have just aches and pains throughout muscle tissue. We have gut pain, maybe digestive pain, back pain, right? Different areas, joints, our knees, I mentioned our knees, but also our fingers, knuckles, etc. So we can have pain sitting in different areas of our body. Sometimes it's neuropathy. We have nerve pain, just neuropathy pain. So there are many different types of pain that's associated with chronic disease. And what are the best ways to alleviate it, to overcome it? So it's not just to manage it, but we want to get rid of it, because it's awful when we live with pain. It is just so debilitating, and it's so tiring when we have to live with this day in and day out. I haven't had a lot of pain. I have had a couple of instances in my life when I've dealt with pain, and it's not fun. I really my heart goes out to everyone who suffers with pain. So as I mentioned, my name is Pam Bartha, and the reason that I can talk about this topic is that I have coached hundreds of people with chronic disease over the past, since 2000, the year 2000, hundreds, all right? And a lot of people that have chronic disease, they have chronic pain. Myself, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 29 years ago. I'm really fortunate that I didn't have a lot of pain when I was diagnosed, but some people with multiple sclerosis have a lot of pain. And so this is a really important topic, because I always teach about going after the root cause so that we don't have pain in the future, but we also have to manage it while we're working at treating the cause. I just want to make sure you guys can hear me. Awesome, you guys can all hear me. So please type in your questions and your comments. I'll come back to them in a little while, but I just wanted to share with you some of the best ways to manage pain, because they have been really helpful for our students. So as I mentioned, the first thing is to really understand what type of pain are we talking about. So if it is the type of pain where you've had an injury, right, and you can trace it back, you've got the back pain, but you know that you were in a car accident, maybe you had some sporting injury or some accident, that type of a pain definitely has to be dealt with a little bit differently than if we have inflammation pain from chronic disease. There is some overlap, but there's a little difference. So number one, we understand that if it's an injury, then it's something that's going to heal over time if you're relatively healthy, if you are relatively in balance, meaning that what I teach a lot is about the microbes in your body. If they're really in balance, then you will probably heal. Things that you can do to accelerate the healing is rest, of course. Rest, really important, but things like physiotherapy when you're feeling up to it. Don't ever push through pain. It's not worth it. Extra sleep is really important. There are different anti-inflammatory herbs like curcumin from turmeric, and there's also ginger, and there's so many other beautiful herbs that are anti-inflammatory. And there's also things like pulsed electromagnetic therapy, and I'll be talking more about that. So we can use all kinds of things. And if let's say we're an athlete or we just want to recover as much as possible and we're kind of concerned we're not going to recover fully, then we can do some more advanced therapies like prolotherapy, or where they're using ozone in the therapy, and also stem cell therapy. So there's different types of injection type therapies but the stem cells, where they're getting the stem cells from, they're harvesting them from your own fat from your body. So those would be some more advanced, more costly ways to speed up the healing of certain areas in your body. But when we're dealing with chronic disease, then the key is that those things are not, they might give us a little bit of symptom relief, but they are not going to fix, the body's not going to heal, because there's something causing that inflammation. And I teach in the Live Disease-Free system, and on my videos, I show people how when we're dealing with chronic disease, the chronic disease is stemming, the biggest cause is stemming from chronic silent infections in our body. And we have to treat them. There is no diet or exercise that will get rid of them. It depends on how out of balance we are. If we, let's say we were on antibiotics and we have a little bit of digestive issues, and we might be able to use some herbs and change our diet and bring back the good microbes, and we may be able to turn it around. But when we have chronic disease, the microbiome, the microbes that live inside of our body, the microbiota, is so out of balance that it is so detrimental that we must do some extra steps to correct it. That's the big thing. So in order to not just manage or overcome pain in chronic disease, we've got to treat the root cause, all right? And what we do in the Live Disease-Free system is step by step. So the first step is, I wonder if you guys can guess it, it's the eating plan, right? Because if infections are fed by the foods that we eat, especially carbohydrates, then it makes sense that we greatly reduce the food to those infections and we eat low carb. And that is the Live Disease-Free eating plan. You guys are going to be very excited that in a few months we are going to have a cookbook, the Live Disease-Free cookbook. Make sure to keep your eyes open for that. But this is so huge. So this is an anti-inflammatory eating plan where we have lots of low-carb vegetables. So we're giving our body lots of nutrition, and we're giving the good microbes that we want to foster in the future, that we're building back up. They have lots of food because they love fiber. We're decreasing the carbohydrates and sugars so that we're not feeding the bad microbes as much that are causing the inflammation and the pain. And we are basically taking out grains. I just want to give you just a quick summary. I've got other videos on this, so I'm not going to go into great detail. Make sure to go on our YouTube channel, Live Disease-Free, or our Facebook channel, Live Disease-Free, and you can watch different videos on the eating plan. But basically, it is off of all grains, sugar, off of dairy, and of course, no gluten if you're not having grains, but lots of vegetables, low-carb vegetables, so tons of nutrition. And this time of year, there's lots and lots of variety that we can have. Enough healthy fats to keep our weight on, moderate protein to keep our muscle mass. And when we do that, I personally see huge shifts in all kinds of decrease of symptoms, and including pain. So we know that, I just want to talk about inflammation for a minute. With inflammation in the body that's associated with chronic disease, the real progressive healthcare providers, I call them the hero doctors and researchers, they know that inflammation in the body, when it's associated with chronic disease, the biggest cause is infection in the body. And this can be different types of parasites and fungus and bacteria and others, but those are the ones that are causing the biggest grief for us, for sure. And this past couple of years, we've really learned from our students in helping them recover that parasites are a much bigger part of the problem than we ever thought possible. For many years, we've known fungus is an issue and bacteria, etc. But we have learned that parasites are probably the biggest cause of a lot of the symptoms that we're dealing with. So number one is the eating plan, because if you don't feed them as much, they're not going to be as active, they're not as happy, they're not as mobile, and then you start to notice inflammation starts to go down, and you start to see all kinds of symptoms, including pain, to start to decrease. That's really, really important. Now, the next thing is to support the body. So this is where, yes, if we're dealing with a lot of pain, we want to support the body, and we can do this in various different ways. So some of them have an indirect benefit to decreasing pain. Sleep is so important. And I know that a lot of us that have chronic disease and we have a lot of pain, it's really hard to sleep. So sometimes we have to take sleep aids to help us. And there's some different ones that are really not a problem, but of course, this is an educational talk. Please check with your practitioners, etc. And if you're pregnant or you have some other, pregnancy is a wonderful thing, but if you have a health condition, you always check to make sure things are safe. So this is for educational purposes. So with respect to sleep, something like as simple as an antihistamine. So if you do have a lot of parasites and you take an antihistamine before bed, regular strength Benadryl, a lot of our students will take that, and that sedates the parasites. And yes, it sedates us a little bit, but it really does sedate the parasites, and people sleep a lot better. And you'll notice that the more you sleep, it will help you to reduce the pain for sure. So sleep is super important. Different supplements can be helpful. As I mentioned before, there are lots of anti-inflammatory herbs that we could take internally. So there's things like curcumin, right? You guys, I'm sure most of you have heard of turmeric, which contains curcumin and ginger, and there's a lot of different anti-inflammatory herbs. Frankincense and camphor and chamomile. If you look up pain, you'll see a lot of different essential oils that you can use. You have to be careful because some of them you can take internally and some you can't. So make sure that you know which ones. And I'm hoping in the future we'll carry a line of essential oils, because I really don't know who to refer people to right now, because we have to make sure that they are pure. And it's really important to get past all the marketing and just to really understand that. So I'm not talking about the essential oils that you would put in your diffusers. I'm talking about you can use essential oils as medicine, but again, you have to know what you're doing. If it's too strong, you have to dilute it with a carrier oil, or you just have to make sure that it's really pure and safe. But some of them are really helpful. For example, frankincense oil. I was actually out with my husband for 2 days. It's been, I would say, years since we've snuck away for 2 days just to a little motel. Went to a little health food store in a small town we went to, and we found that, and I'm going to check into this, but somebody in our area is producing frankincense. So he's going off to across the ocean, and he's bringing back, I don't think he's making it here, but bringing back the frankincense oil. And frankincense is something that can be really helpful. You can massage it in the area, those oils, right? You can massage it. And those herbs, I'll be talking more about the anti-inflammatory, like they actually are like antimicrobial. They'll start to treat infections, but they probably won't be strong enough to deal with all the pain internally. But externally, you can rub it on the areas. So I just want to talk about a few different types of pains that can be alleviated with supporting the body and the eating plan. So when we're dealing with migraine headaches, very often they are the cause of a pain chemical that's released, and they're called prostaglandins. And so what we will do is we'll grab some pain medication that will prevent the production of prostaglandins, but it's not treating what's causing it. So for me, it's all about getting to the root cause, right? And dealing with the root cause so that we don't need to use pain medication in the future. So sometimes the infections are in our brain and our central nervous system, and we can have prostaglandins produced there, and that would be very painful. They are produced by the body in response to infection, but they are also produced by these infections. So as we get to later on to the treatment part of infections, then if the infections are producing the prostaglandins and we treat them, we're not going to have headaches anymore. There's also this highway of nerves between our digestive tract and our central nervous system. So it can also be just us being out of balance and having different bad pathogenic microbes growing in our intestines that cause the pain giving us headaches. So sometimes it's in our central nervous system, and sometimes it is just in our gut, in our intestines, and that can cause the migraines also. So the simplest thing to do is to just start healing the gut, right? And the eating plan is huge, because as you decrease the food, those microbes are going to be less active. And a lot of people find they don't have the migraines and the headaches. Yes, if you're changing the eating plan and coming off of sugar and off of caffeine and etc., you may have a headache for a day or two, right? Especially coming off of caffeine. But that's different than the migraines that are associated and headaches with chronic disease. So the exciting thing is that just the eating plan, plus making sure that you're having daily bowel movements, because when you have the wrong microbes living in your intestines, they cause the constipation. They barricade themselves in so they're protected. They live in there, and then they're pumping out tons of toxins which are going into your blood, which are going into your, carried out throughout the body and crossing the blood-brain barrier if your liver cannot keep up, which is often the case. Your liver is trying to clean up the mess. But some of us are so sick and we have so much infection in our body that, and we notice this in the middle of the night if we wake up, like if you're well asleep and then you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, different practitioners have shared with me that, you know, that's when they're really active at night. And then they produce a lot of poisons and your liver is trying to clean up the mess out of the blood. But if it can't keep up, then the toxins will continue on up, cross the blood-brain barrier, and wake you up at night and cause anxiety and depression and all kinds of horrible things. So all of those symptoms can be reduced by, number one, don't feed them. And number two, make sure that you're releasing toxins and you're releasing your stool regularly, daily, really important. So that can be really helpful for headaches. And then as far as muscle aches and pains, I see this all the time, just as people are following the eating plan, supporting the body, and treating the infections, that systemic pain in their muscles goes away. Joint pain, like sometimes we could, like I said, we can use local, the essential oils, rubbing them in certain areas like your joints, or maybe you're dealing with sciatica. And before I forget, I want to mention too that when we have infections, like even Lyme disease, it's well known that if you have an injured area, they like to move into that area. I don't know if there's signaling going on that they're picking up, but for example, if people have frozen shoulder, maybe from an injury, but very often with chronic disease, people have frozen shoulder. And when they do, if you use something like the pulsed electromagnetic therapy, it not only will increase the circulation in that area, but it will also cause that area, like kind of scatter them out. Just wanted to show you this. Oh, this is, I'm just gonna grab some water. I love this little device. It is SOTA. It's a magnetic pulsar. There are so many different pulsed electromagnetic therapy instruments out there. You can find mats that are quite expensive, anywhere between $6,000 to $7,000. You can also find little units like this for $300 or $400. And you could use it, let's say if you had frozen shoulder, which is often with chronic disease, you can use it like this. You can put it in the area where you have sciatica pain, where you have the sciatic pain, you can just lay it against. So I like this because it's very cost effective, but it's not convenient. Let's say if you want to wear it for a long period of time, this is something you have to sit down and you have to put it to the painful area. So if somebody would have frozen shoulder, you might sit down on the couch for 20 minutes and put it here for a bit, and up here, behind you, here, and maybe put it under your arm and just kind of move it around. It works like crazy. I had frozen shoulder several years ago. I was working with some horses and I had a little bit of an injury in my shoulder. The two things that helped me, and I'll get to it, a supplement called Sport, and I'll talk more about that in a minute, but also this. So I went to physiotherapy and I went to chiropractors, and they had this machine where it's like a little machine gun kind of thing, and it kind of jabs you. Didn't do anything, but this little thing, once or twice a day for 15 to 20 minutes. And I don't know, I know that it will increase the circulation. And of course, when you're increasing circulation, that will definitely heal that area a lot quicker. But it is just wonderful. All right. And that would be, you can find it online, SOTA. It is a Canadian company. And this one I think is under $400. I've also seen another device that some people were mentioning was really helpful, and I don't remember the name of it. What I like about it, it has a lot of reviews. I'm just trying to see where it is. Here we go. It has a lot of reviews, but it is OSKA, OSKA, I think, OSKA device. what I like about it is that it's something you can wear. So let's say you had an injury somewhere, your back, for example, you have back pain, you can actually strap it and you can have it on just pulsing on your back. So what this device does, and I believe the other one also, it just has one coil, copper coil in here, and it just puts out a little pulse. And there are two settings, like it can go either deeply or not as deep. So if you have it on the faster setting, the pulses are more often and the penetration will be less. So if you have more of a deep tissue pain, then you would put it on the slower pulse because it goes deeper, and it really works. We've had a few people I've shared it with and they've had tremendous improvements with pain. So that thing just within, like my frozen shoulder was so bad, I could not sleep for, a couple of nights. And I used that, and within 2 nights, I could actually sleep. And then within a week, it was way better. So it's really huge. So, and then as I mentioned, there are masks that you can purchase, but they're, like I said, they're $6,000 to $7,000. There are some that are less, and you can shop around. Those would be a mat where you lay on, and they would have multiple coils. And so you could either lay on it for 15 to 20 minutes a day, and I know some of them you can lay on them all night. But again, you just have to, I don't know, that's a huge investment for a device. And I'm just not sure that this is always, everything you evaluate is like, do I get enough value out of it for what I'm spending on it? And people that have used the mats, it can be helpful, but again, it's not going to get rid of the pain in chronic disease because it's it's caused by infection, and we have to treat the infections. So with respect to joint pain, you can use arnica, you could use a PEMF. Again, you could use things like for different joint pain, you can use prolotherapy or prozone therapy, where they're actually using ozone and they're injecting it into your joints, and they've actually been able to regrow cartilage with that, which is amazing. So look into those. Again, those would be things that you understand if you have chronic disease that it's not going to fix you because there's infection involved, we've got to treat it, but those would be helping to manage the pain. I wanted to mention the sport. So as we said, there's supplements. You can find all kinds of supplements online. Just if you're looking for something, look for the reviews and be careful, because sometimes the reviews are, a company will say, if you give me a 5-star, I will give you a free product. So you want to look at the reviews. Sometimes on Amazon, you can go through a lot of reviews, or just type in the name of the product and look for reviews. Read some of them. Are they meaningful? Is it really helping people? Or are they just saying, yeah, it's a great product, and they're getting paid? So that's really important. So one that I found really helpful, and students have shared a lot, is Sport, S-P-O-R-T. And it's by the company Manitech, and you can go look it up yourself. We do have it, you can find it on my website, livediseasefree.com, and it's called Sport, and it is a natural anti-inflammatory. And so it can be really helpful just as you are supporting the body and getting ready to treat. Again, really helpful. And it will have a blend of natural anti-inflammatory herbs and natural sterols, etc., that will help to bring down the inflammation and bring down the pain. And we've had lots of good reports on that one, and I'm sure there are other ones too. So whether you're taking things internally, just natural supplements and products, or you're rubbing certain oils, again, look for oils that have good reviews, right? And that's the bottom line there. With neuropathy, sometimes there's various different things that can help with neuropathy. Number one, it could be a vitamin B12 deficiency. And if that's the case, then supplementing with methylcobalamin can be really helpful. And the only way you can really tell if you're vitamin B12 deficient is to have an MMA or homocysteine test done. Because the traditional B12 tests, they're measuring inactive B12. So you might be supplementing with tons of B12 and finding out that you don't know that you're deficient, because it's having, your test result is coming back with a really high reading, but they're not measuring the active B12. And that's the key. So MMA or homocysteine to measure B12. neuropathy is really common in different types of chronic diseases. And what I find so fascinating as a coach is one of my students, he was following the eating plan and he was supporting the body, and then he was getting to treating infections and he was using different herbs. This was a few years ago, before we really understood that we needed to treat the parasites more aggressively. And he just wasn't seeing improvements that he should have. He still had neuropathy. And, you know, I am not a fly on people's walls. And when somebody's not improving, that there is something that is not happening properly, right? So anyhow, 2 or 3 months later, I get an email back from him, and it's like, Pam, I quit smoking and my neuropathy is down like 90%. And I'm like, I didn't know that you were smoking because you didn't tell me as a coach. So what I'm trying to share here is that you don't know if you do the right things as far as supporting the body. You don't know what is going to be that little switch that all of a sudden your body is like, oh, I can handle things again. Oh, I can deal with the inflammation. Yeah, I can settle the inflammation down. We know that these infections cause a lot of immune dysfunction and they cause the inflammation. And so just that one thing that he was doing that I didn't know about, which I was like, oh, that was awful. Like, because you're trying to rack your brain to figure out what they're not doing right. And then he tells me after the fact that he was smoking, and he put in his notes that he quit smoking, but he didn't tell me that he was still went back to it while he was in the program. So something like that can be really big, really, really big. So that's the neuropathy. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention to you with pain, hidden dental infections. This is so big. This is something that has been pounded into me through what I have seen in my students, but also what these hero doctors are saying. Look up Dr. Rowan. He has a really wonderful YouTube channel. And on his channel, you'll see probably 50 to 100 cases of people that come in with pain. And he will take the meridian tooth chart and chart it up to a specific tooth. He will freeze that tooth, and within seconds, they have no pain. Really big. So it could be that you have a root canal that's infected. All root canals become infected within time. It could be that you had your wisdom teeth removed. And with wisdom teeth that are removed, there are these little pockets, or other teeth. There's pockets that are sitting there. And if you're dealing with huge dysbiosis in your gut and you've had parasites kind of bothering you for a few years that you didn't know about, and you just thought, oh, I've just got some digestive issues, and you're becoming more and more populated with critters, they can move into those little pockets and they can become infected. And we can end up with these not just bacteria, but also small parasites that are living in those pockets. And they're pumping out poisons into your bloodstream and causing pain. So that is really huge. So making sure that you see not only a biological dentist, but this is the hard thing, is that what we're seeing with our students is very often the tooth looks healthy, the tooth looks normal, the area looks good, the x-rays are fine. But what you can do is you can actually look for a tooth meridian chart, and you can say, okay, I've got this terrible knee pain. I've never heard it with sports. I'm sure it has to do with like arthritis or some kind of chronic disease condition. Trace that back up with the tooth chart to whichever tooth that is, and have your dentist look at it and do more x-rays. Go to a biological dentist and look for a dentist that could do some type of energy testing. Some of them can, or a practitioner that can do energy testing. And they can find areas where you will have decreased energy in your mouth, and they'll pinpoint to that area. So one of the hero doctors that I study under, like, he will test which treatments are best, and he will also look for hidden dental infections through x-rays, but also through the energy testing. And when he finds an area, he will circle it and he'll say, go to the dentist, and the dentist will say, it's a perfectly normal tooth. I'm not going to pull it. You know, I shouldn't pull it. And then because the person is so sick and they're like, Dr. Yu says that that's what it is. So then they will go and have it pulled. He'll have, the patient will have to write a disclaimer like, you know, we've pulled this tooth with my permission. They send it in to a lab, and then they're finding all of these pathogenic bacteria and viruses and small parasites growing in, and very often it's like root canals, or they're doing the scrapings from the bone for cavitation work. So again, that's a really important thing, and most people don't know this. Most of us have these hidden dental infections in our body that cause pain throughout our body. Again, this is infection. All right, so as we're working through the Live Disease-Free system, we're following the eating plan, we're not feeding the infections, our pain is starting to subside usually. And then we also add on other things like maybe some pulsed electromagnetic therapy, whether it's something as simple as the soda machine, or we're using that other one that I mentioned that is, I haven't tried it yet, but it looks really good. It has a lot of great reviews, and that would be the OSCA device. And then also things like reducing the radiation around us, because the wireless radiation from our computer, from our cell phone, from cordless phones, from all of these smart appliances we have, maybe it's the cell tower outside of your home, maybe it's the smart meter outside of your bedroom. When we have the infections that are causing pain in our body, inflammation and pain, they sense the radiation. It makes them grow faster. Dr. Klinghardt has mentioned it's up to 600 times faster. They produce more poisons, more inflammation, and cause more pain. So reducing the wireless radiation in our environment, it's not just to relieve pain, it's so we can treat the infections easier. It still works, but we treat them. And it's anti-aging. It's hugely anti-aging. So getting sleep, reducing radiation, managing the pain through essential oils, superfood blends, something like a blend like Sport from Manatech that you can find on my site, livediseasefree.com. And there's another one that is Bounce Back. You can use both of them. You can go ahead and read up on them, but they're just natural anti-inflammatories that have been really, really helpful. Thanks for all the love and all of the hearts, etc. So the other things that I just wanted to share with you, so from supporting the body, oh, and just a few other things, like increasing circulation. You know, if you have an injury, a sports injury, sometimes we'll use ice at the beginning, but then sometimes heat will be really helpful for dealing with pain. So right now we're just talking about kind of managing the symptoms, and then we're going to be treating the infections. So with respect to bringing in heat, whether it's something that you warm up and it just increases the circulation, it can really help with heat. We talked about sciatic problems. A lot of people that are dealing with being immobile, being in wheelchairs, etc., deal with sciatic pain. There are some great exercises if you're still relatively mobile that you can use. And I did create a video that I will upload eventually here, but it is a video that really helps to, like, just simple little exercises, stretches, really help with the sciatica. And what else here? Oh, massaging the tennis ball, PEMF for sciatica, and chiropractor. Not for sciatica, but chiropractor, being in alignment can be really helpful. If you're in extreme pain, you probably can't see the chiropractor that day, but there are exercises you can do to kind of loosen up the area and just sleep for a couple of days, get a little bit of healing, and then go in and be adjusted. That's very important. And I think everything else. So treating infections, that is really the biggest help for recovering from pain, because they're the source of our pain. And stem cell treatment is not going to be very cost effective if we don't treat the infections that are causing the pain, because otherwise we'll have to keep going back, and stem cell treatments, like from our own stem cells, it is quite expensive. So if you want to use stem cell therapy, it's best to use that only after you have really treated the infections well. I personally, this is just my own humble opinion, this, I could be wrong, but for a lot of my students, they don't need stem cell therapy. Like, the body is amazing, it heals itself, you just have to support it. And as far as making new pathways, I don't know yet, right? It's something a person could try if they have $15,000 to $20,000 that they want to spend, but it's quite an expensive treatment. So with respect to treating the infections, the herbs are just not strong enough for the parasites. That's what we have found. And so our students are working with practitioners and they are treating parasites. And very often when we have chronic disease, right, and we have severe pain, we may benefit from taking 4 to 5 antiparasitic drugs at one time versus 1 to 2. And I'm seeing that very often. It's like the sicker we are and the more pain we have, then usually we're dealing with a wider range of microbes. And that is really important to understand. So if you've gone to the health food store and you bought a parasite cleanse and you did it and you're like, nothing changed, I still have my pain, chances are you didn't treat it well enough, honestly. And I know that because this is the world I live in, working with all these students, and they are infested with parasites. If you have a lot of pain and chronic disease, you are infested with parasites. That's what we've come to understand. And fungus, and possibly Lyme disease, etc. And fungus is a type of parasite. So the key is that you have to be on a program where you are, what we do is treating parasites for 10 to 14 days, sometimes up to 20 days, then stopping and then starting to treat fungus for about 10 days to 14 days, and then stopping and having a break. And in the break time, this is where eggs will hatch and critters will come out of the biofilms. And we're also working at knocking back and treating biofilms because that's where they're hiding. But if you are to the place where you've had a disease diagnosis and you do deal with pain, then you need at least 4 to 6 cycles to really work the parasite infestation down so low that you're not going to end up with flare-ups in the near future. And then it's all about, like, as you're treating the infections, then we want to build back the good microbes, and this takes work too. Probiotic pills, I'm not sold on them at this point yet, but the raw fermented foods, when people are sick, just the raw sauerkraut, only the raw sauerkraut, small amounts, increase it as tolerated. It just seems to be the best tolerated, and it does not contain as many yeasts, etc. So that is what we can use to build up the good. And then the last point is managing this. So when you get those infections down, you no longer have pain, then it's about doing a parasite and an antifungal treatment once or twice a year as prevention, and living differently. So I live differently today than I did when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and that was 29, I think it's 30 years now, 30 years ago, I was diagnosed with MS, and my life is very different today than it was when at that age, as far as what I eat, what I value with my health, what I know. So the key is that all the things I've shared with you is really to help you to have the best quality of life. It's not to manage your pain, but it's to overcome your pain. And yes, we can use some natural things to manage the symptoms while we're treating the cause, but the key is we want to treat the cause. And there is no diet that is going to get rid of your pain. It can help to reduce it if you're not feeding the cause as much. There is no exercise that will get rid of it. If it's with chronic disease, you gotta treat the infections. That's what's causing the bulk of the problem. So I'm gonna go to your questions here and see. I just don't wanna forget, but I just wanted to share a really inspirational success that just came in from one of our wellness champions. All right. Oh, and yeah, I just wanted to mention also that the Live Disease-Free system, all the steps we were talking about, we have a class of students right now that are in the process of recovering from chronic disease. And if you want to find out more information about the infections and you want to hear a ton of success stories, etc., and the steps that you have to take in more detail, make sure to watch my master class training. Just want to share this with you before I go to a couple of questions. So this is from a student who graduated in 2016 May, so coming on 3 years, and her name is Sarah. She shared this to our wellness champion community, because we have students that are just starting and students that are in the middle of recovery, and we have students that have graduated. She shared, "To everyone who has just started this life-saving program, keep going and never give into temptation. Follow Pam's program 100% and you'll see the results. I completed her program in May 2016 and I continue to live like a wellness champion. I am symptom-free, so she had a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. I am symptom-free and full of energy. And yes, she's full of energy. She just ran another 10K, her best 10K this spring, in 1 hour and I think 2 minutes. Push through the bad days. Push through the days when you doubt this will work. It will work, but it's all in your hands. Just wanted to give you some love to those that are, just wanted to give some love to those who are where I was 3 years ago. You got this. So that was a really inspirational message that Sarah shared with our group, and I just wanted to share that with you. So I just love getting updates from students that I haven't seen for a while. Hi Marlene, and hi Rob, and Julia, Susan, and Elaine. Hi Victor. Anyone here from California? I don't know. Hi Alexander. Hi Naji. Is it safe to use magnesium citrate? Yes, it's totally safe to use magnesium citrate to help with a constipation. But then as you are treating the infections more and more, you'll find that you won't need it anymore, but it is absolutely safe. Again, it depends on how much you're taking. Just, you know how much to take, just don't take huge amounts of it. And hello, Ronnie and Stephen. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Troy. So Rob, you have the IMRS 2000 mat and CBD oil. Yes, and I forgot to mention CBD oil. That can be helpful also. With CBD oils, there are so many different products on the market, and a lot of people have mentioned that they have not noticed a difference with CBD. Again, it all depends on what is the source and cause of your inflammation and your pain. But some people have mentioned that the CBD is really helpful. I would really encourage anyone that's using CBD, if you want to try it, again, look for a product that has a ton of good reviews, but then also go for a CBD oil that has virtually no THC oil, just because the THC, it really affects our brain function, all right? And we're all about health here. So we don't want to just, suppress the pain, but have a negative impact on our brain also. So we want to make sure that we have a healthy brain. And there's lots of research showing that THC is not great for the brain. So CBD is fine, THC I would avoid. That's my own personal opinion. Hi Cheryl, hi Valerie, hi Elizabeth, hi Lisa. You use doTERRA frankincense. I just don't know with doTERRA if it is the purity of it. I've heard of it before and it's probably fine, but you just have to be really careful when you take it internally that it says that it's for internal use. Hi Elizabeth. How about magnesium oil? Yes, you can try it, absolutely, because magnesium, it can be helpful for muscles. You can totally try it. Hi Adrian. Hi Jessie. Hi Mary Lou. Hi Alicia. Hi Cheryl. How do you spell SOTA? S-O-T-A, that's it. Yeah, it's a really neat little thing. It's probably kind of a pain if you have chronic pain and if you want to treat the area for longer periods of time, because you would have to sit in one place and you plug it into the wall. But for like $300 or just over $300, it's been really awesome. We've had lots of family members use it. Hi Victor and Jesse. Okay, Huda. I want to ask if eating fish and shrimp is good for MS. Again, if you have some omega-3, which is supposed to be anti-inflammatory, but you just have to understand what MS is. MS is a parasitic infestation. So you're not going to really notice a big difference with, it's good to have fish and make sure to rotate them because some of our fish are quite polluted. Shrimp, that would be something you wouldn't have very often because they tend to pick up a lot more toxins because they're the bottom feeders, the bottom dwellers. They pick up a lot more poisons and toxins in the ocean. But eating protein and low-carb vegetables in general, and yes, bringing in some omega-3 is fine, but the biggest part is when you're treating the infections. That's where you'll notice the biggest improvement in your recovery, in recovery of pain. Hello, Graham. I saw your message. I will reach out to you. It's been a long time. Maureen, thanks. You're very welcome. So Maureen, your recent blood work, your B12 was really, really high. I'm assuming that you are supplementing with B12. And there is no point in supplementing with B12 if your B12 is in the right range. So we just assume that people with MS, everybody's on vitamin D3 and everybody's on taking vitamin B12. Most people are. And so this is where it's really good to see where your actual blood work is, where your active B12, so that would be MMA or homocysteine. Maybe you don't need to be supplementing with that much B12, right? And then you're just saving some money. Yes, and go and watch Dr. Rowan's YouTube channel. A plug for him. He's the ozone doctor, and it just blew me away. I watched probably like 20 videos. They're short, but it's like this person came in with knee pain and instantly gone with freezing that tooth. Another person, hip pain, like needing hip surgery, instantly gone with just freezing a tooth. So that is a really big thing you guys need to look into. And Dr. Yu, he just drilled it home when I was at his training, that it is like one of the biggest things. And he loses patience because he'll say, you've got a dental infection here and it's probably going to hold you back from recovering from ALS or whatever. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's going to cost a lot of money to have that dental work done, and they don't show up again. But if they're really desperate, they'll go and have the dental work done. They'll come back and all of a sudden their tremors are gone. It's like a huge shift for them. So it's really a big deal. Hi, Don. Hi, Victor. Stephanie. I think that's it for the questions. There might be a couple of others. Yes, Denise, I love essential oils. But again, this is where there are so many products on the market, and it's really hard to kind of figure out, which one is therapeutic as far as strong enough to really make a difference. It's fine if you're putting it in diffusers. I personally don't really diffuse because I would rather open my windows. I just don't always trust companies. Like, I don't know what they're putting in for additives or preservatives. I'd rather just have fresh air. It's cheaper that way. But for therapy, for treating infections, they can be helpful. But if you have a parasitic infestation, they probably won't be strong enough. But they can help with pain if you're massaging on the outside, for sure. So with that, I think that was all that I wanted to share. Next week, what I'm going to be talking about is allergies and chronic disease. Is there a link? Yes, there is. We see this so often in all the people that I work with that have chronic disease. And so if you're at that place where you're like, Pam, all this stuff makes sense, and I would really like to treat the cause of my pain, I don't want to just mask it with pain medication that can actually make the pain worse over time. And all the pain medication, it really suppresses your immune system. So if you have infections and you're suppressing the immune system, that's not a good thing. You want to treat the infections. That's the way to go. So watch my masterclass training. You can learn all the steps you need to take. If you want to be a wellness champion, you can reach out to us. You can get started right away. But with that, I'm going to let you guys go. So next week, allergies and chronic disease. Is there a link? And we'll talk to you then. Take care and bye-bye for now.